Gonna build a mountain from a little hill.
Evening folks, this is BestInSlot back with the next episode, next exhibit build. We are going to add a new animal today off our Planet Zoo Sandbox African Zoo kind of shebang. In today's video we're going to be building a common warthog exhibit. A little bit smaller and a little bit more low-key than the giraffe exhibit was, but we've got some cool features in there and also a new visual style in general that I want to talk about. I'm going to talk about that after the speed build. I've changed some stuff up. I've actually finished the inside of the zoo as well, like inside the initial dome. So I'll show you that at the end of the video. The idea we had in the last video of using the edge of the earth and kind of having these two guys and the king and stuff like that, we're kind of doing that, but I've come up with a slightly different way of doing it, which I think is going to make for a pretty cool zoo. So we're doing this Warthog exhibit. I will link my Pinterest down below. I resisted Pinterest for a long time because it annoys me because it ruins Google Images by and large. But it is very, very useful for collecting zoo inspiration. So there's this image on Pinterest that I really liked. That was basically you walk along this path and these sticks come up behind you and then they kind of coalesce above you in like a little display. It's not that easy to make on Planet Zoo, but that was kind of the inspiration and something I wanted to do. These are unfortunately the wrong logs, so I'm going to put all these down and then get rid of all of them. Because that log works. Because the point is the logs have to come up and then curl forward and they have to be like one single shape essentially. And you can't do that if the log itself is not uniform all the way up and down. So that's what we're doing. Prepare to see a lot of this screen. There's going to be a whole lot of logs for the next few minutes, I'm afraid. This is basically my life. I spent about probably 40 minutes doing logs. Now the total build is 2 hours 20, something like 2.5 hours, something like that. And this is 6-7 times speed, I can't quite remember. But it's about 2.5 hours for the build. And the idea is I'm just going to put the warthog in so I get a sense for the size and stuff like that. And yeah, we're just going to cover it in logs. The logs are going to be the fence essentially. The warthog will not actually be able to escape. It kind of looks like they could. I did consider changing that up a little bit, but the warthog seemingly can't escape. And that's why I brought him in nice and early so we can kind of see if he can get out. Now I got a little confused there because it does look like he can walk out. And it's not actually the distance between logs that's a problem. It's that the barrier doesn't cut through them enough. So it seems like he can escape, but he's actually just walking to the edge. So we will be getting rid of the barrier by and large for the entire thing. I did try to copy multiple at a time, and unfortunately it just it kept sinking them halfway into the ground, so no, it's individual placement all the way around. It really was the big part of this build. I'm not even sure if it worked out, to be honest. Until the very end I wasn't super happy with how this was working out. I had an idea and I had like a focus in mind, but for some reason it just wasn't quite looking how I envisioned it. I think it comes together at the end, but there's a lot of logs until the end. I promise we do other things. And as I say, towards the end of the video, I will show you inside as well, where there's a bunch of new stuff actually, a bunch of new stuff inside. So we'll see that in a bit, and I will explain my new plan for the future of the zoo. Got a little bit lazy here. Started using the quadruples. They're gonna go all the way around there. We'll get there eventually, I promise. I had to sort my music out, obviously. It's important. You can't sit and play this for 2.5 hours and listen to the Planet Zoo music. I love the Planet Zoo music. It's amazing, but you need something a little bit that's going to hold your interest a little bit more. So the idea is to sink those ones down a little bit. You can see how the path... This is mainly a predominantly raised exhibit. There are little areas where if maybe you're struggling with the slopes and stuff, you could in theory sit like that bit right there on the right hand side and a little bit on the left. And look into the enclosure, but most of it is going to be raised because, I don't know, it just had a little idea in mind. Basically, I want to lean into that. I did for a long time consider this. It looks a bit weird there because I did multiple at once, but I based this initial idea on these, it was like palisades or something, like in a war zone, where these sticks are in the ground and then there's some pointing forward to kind of prevent, usually to prevent like horses attacking or something like that. I thought it looks pretty cool, but it just wasn't clicking in the right way for my zoo, so decided against that. See, this is what I mean. I thought, oh yeah, I'll just move those around. That'll fix it. It doesn't fix it because that's not the problem. And then I figured it out. There we go. Well done, BestInSlot, you big old dummy. Right, well, there's a glimpse of my Pinterest. There's an amazing thing. I think it's Singapore. I think it's like an airport or a train station or something. It looks incredible. I don't know how they've pulled it off, but it is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. Again, I'll link my Pinterest down below if you want to have a look. A lot of it will not make it into the zoo because it's probably a little bit too tropical, but it's basically a lot of circular things, you know, which very much suits the theme we're going in here. I really want to get that mix of modern and traditional, as we always do. I'm not going to say the T word in this video, okay? That's my deal with myself. There were no T words. T has become, like, a slur. I'm not allowed to say anymore, the T word. Yeah, decided to have logs at both sides. This isn't going to go all the way around. You'll be thankful to know this is just going to go around to where... Basically, there's like a high point at the back of the exhibit, which is what we're on now. And that's just where they're going to go to. They're not going to go too far around, but enough. Anyways, so sinking the logs into there a little bit. Going to build like a little house here as well, just a little staff entrance. I wasn't really sure where else to put this. I could have maybe hidden it under what will be the viewing area at that south end there. So this was the idea. The logs are sitting at the back, and then they come up, and then they wrap forward around the path, and it kind of makes like a sheltered viewing area sort of shebang. I'm not totally convinced that it works, but give it a go anyway. There's our Warthog sign, and soon something else. What they call Vlakvark, something like that. I don't know how you pronounce it. It's Vlakvark. I'm going to call it Vlakvark. You will notice that I've changed the colour of the giraffe one. It's now green. Again, there is a reason for that, and we'll come to that towards the end of the video. I have many plans to do with the T word that we'll go into later on. I love these lights as well, although that's too many lights. I ended up changing that. Anyways, these signs are amazing. So if you missed that video with the giraffe, the idea is to have the English signs, but also the Afrikaans signs. And this bit took bloody ages as well. So I'm just building my little ramped, sort of arched wooden pieces thingamajiggy. And what I should have done, I realised this about halfway through, unfortunately, because this does get a little bit messy, is do the whole thing as one thing. You can see what I'm doing is basically attaching it to the existing logs. I shouldn't have done that. I should have got rid of the existing logs entirely, made an arched piece, and just used those arched pieces. Sticking it onto the existing ones gave me a lot of problems with the angles, wherein, because I'm trying to match the curvature of the path, and even my initial angle was a little bit too far to the right, I think, is part of the problem. They kind of crisscross a little bit now and again. I think it looks okay and kind of suits the look we're going for, but I would prefer it to be totally even all the way around, and it wasn't. I might redo it. It took a bloody long time though, so the idea of redoing the whole thing is just mildly depressing to say the least. And you see, that's where I started to rotate it a little bit. Really what I should have done is start at a better angle and rotate it a little bit every single time. Some of them I just didn't rotate at all, especially at the start. And I kind of built up this deficit of needing to angle them more to make it curve with the path, and I just kind of couldn't, essentially, without them crisscrossing each other. So not the best way to do it. It ends up looking moderately like I would have wanted, though. I'd like a little bit more options for this, for Planet Zoo, more curved pieces, more little pieces that we can, you know, build with. You do have to do a lot of finagling, but at the end of the day, they can't provide every piece you need for every situation. You do kind of have to make do and create your own stuff at the end of the day. And you guys can be the judge. We'll see how it works out. I mean, I know how it works out. The reason we're doing the Warthog, I can't really tell you that. I'll explain later on. There is a very specific reason we're doing the Warthog. And it was meant to be the park entrance here as well. That's been moved slightly. Like I said, I'll explain all that later on. That's what we'll do in the next video. We'll do the entrance sign and the whole entrance walkway. This is still, I mean, you're officially in the zoo at this point, but there's like, I don't know, it's kind of like Chester's, oh no, I need a better example. It's kind of like, for those who remember my Zoo during franchise mode, you went to the zoo, you saw the hippos, and then you walked forward over the bridge, and then you had the entrance sign saying, Bura Vichar, was it? The name of the zoo? Something like that. That's kind of the idea again. So the entrance sign is going to be pushed a little bit further back. It's coming together a little bit. I ended up going back and changing some of the angles just so it didn't cross over entirely. Just so there's like a little bit of a gap between the wood. You don't want your wood to stick together, alright? I think we can all acknowledge that. Are we finally done? There we go. From a distance it looks pretty cool. It's when you get close it looks a little bit funky, but it looks alright. There you go, warthogs. Amazing. What am I going to do next? Who knows? That's the fun. What you will notice as well, if you've been paying attention, is the path does not extend as far. There's only one little plant gap thing in the middle. and there used to be 3, so I have pulled the path back quite a lot. Gonna move the barrier here. Just want to do like a little staff room entrance, not staff room, but like a staff entrance really, and just kind of obscure that away a little bit. I'm gonna put a door on there. For some reason, didn't think to put a door on the other side. Give me a minute. I will figure out that that's the logical thing to do. Don't know why I was trying this. I will think about it in a minute. There we go, you big old dummy. So just a little staff building. We'll have a little sign on there at some point saying staff only. I don't like the idea of hiding the staff entrances and stuff completely, because I don't think you usually would totally. So I think it's okay to kind of highlight them a little bit and just point them out, and as long as you make it clear it's staff only, as long as they thematically fit in. No, I said the T word, I'm sorry. No, I was doing so well. I did 10 whole minutes. Oh no. Anyways, staff only. Easy enough, right? What is next on the ticket? A few more warthogs. I think we've only got 2 at this point. We'll have to add a few more at the end of the video. We've also not done any of the habitat items, so again, we'll do that towards the end of the video. What I really wanted to do was have something just on the outskirts of this tall a bit, so it looked like it was stuck together a little bit, you know, just the physics of it all. I just wanted it to make a little bit more sense. I guess it could work anyway. It probably could completely, but it just kind of made sense to me, I guess. We'll see. So there's going to be this, and then we're going to duplicate that, we're going to move that across, and then we're going to string it along the top as well. Yeah, good stuff. How's everyone doing? What day is it? Is it Tuesday? It is. I don't really have anything to say about that, I just need to keep track of what day it is. It's one of the problems with working on YouTube. Most people, you go to your job, like, especially like at a certain age or certain level of job, blah blah blah, and people work sort of 9 to 5. That angle on that was awful, drag that down. And then you have your weekend off, right? For a lot of people, in a way. For YouTube, that's not a thing. I mean, I took the weekend off in a way, but it means weekends cease to exist in a weird way. Anyways, for some reason, my big idea is a warthog, right? So I wanted it to live in a pit. Just a little bit of a pit. Not too pitty, but a little bit of a pit. And for some reason, I had this idea of having the bonobo. Bonobo's a... What's it called? I can't remember what the tree's called. Oh, it's my favourite tree. How do I not remember what you're called? Oh, it's going to book the bejeebs out of me. I'll check later on in the video. But... No, it's not... Why am I saying bonobo? Maybe because I was looking at bonobos. Anyways, so I wanted one of the trees in the middle and then surrounded by a bit of water. I don't know why, I just had it in my head. Thought it'd raise the ground a little bit. You can't have it too high and too wide, because then when you're standing at the viewing area and looking out, it kind of blocks your view a little bit. I'm going to bring that in somewhat. Wasn't quite there yet. It needed a little bit of love. You just saw a very, very brief glimpse there of my Photoshop file. Basically, I took a screenshot of the zoo and then drew on where I thought it would make sense to do the pathing and stuff like that. I really think I'm going to have to start doing that. I might actually draw out a lot of the zoo. I think it really helps with the planning. This basically matches exactly what I had in mind. So, anyways, doing the rocks again. I love the rocks. The rocks are, I don't know, they just give a little bit of earthiness, and the ground, the ground the stairs in a really nice way, I think. I just think it looks really cool. And T-word, it makes sense for this part of the zoo, for the warthog in particular, again for reasons I will show you towards the end of the video. I don't really want to go into that until I can show you the... It's just complicated, I'll just show you later, it's fine. I've got like a Word document you can see, and the thing I've built inside also ties in with that. But we're going to do this a lot. This is going to be one of the ongoing themes for the zoo, I think. I think it just looks cool. I don't want to do it in every single exhibit, I don't want to do it in every single zoo going forward, but for this zoo I think it's going to be a fairly consistent thing. And it makes sense as well, because we're in this sort of rugged, slightly rough environment, blah 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 blah. You know, it's not that Africa doesn't have big cities and, you know, modern technology and all this stuff, but we are clearly trying to emphasise a more sort of natural and rugged kind of variety of the continent, and the idea that building these areas with these huge rocks, it kind of makes a lot of sense. It ties in really well with that they're using the natural resources in the area to construct these exhibits. I just thought that makes sense. So we're going to be doing a lot of that. I think that's about it for the rocks, though. I didn't want to put them everywhere because I really want you to see the sticks, essentially. I don't really know why the sticks are there, but I just thought we'd add some sticks. Who doesn't love a good stick? Nerds, that's who. Raise those up a little bit. Yeah, and on the other side. eventually. There we go, lovely stuff. I think it looks pretty cool. It looks better from the top and the back than it does from the front. I think you lose it a little bit, but I think that will again maybe look a little bit better if there's something behind it as well. The problem is there's like a big blank space back there and it needs a little bit of love. How long we got left, folks, on the time lapse? I don't know. About 8 minutes. How exciting. 8.5 minutes. So we're about 2/3 of the way through the build. Staff only building is done. We've got little signs. Obviously we need to put some plant life and stuff in here. We're not going to go too overboard. I'm going to try to resist going overboard on the plant life. Again, I'll explain why later on. Wanted a little bit of a... Basically, I want the top staircase, as in when it hits its highest point, which is where those poles are right there. I just wanted it to feel special somehow. I just wanted it to be designated in a way. You know, you've got the viewing area up there, but also like the little poles or something, or that's where the rocks end. It's when it hits that highest point. I don't really know why. I just thought it looked cool, basically. I'm going to smooth that out because it looked a little bit daft. There we go. What's that tree called? My God, I remember. Is it not called a bonobo tree? Am I going nuts? I know a bonobo, right? Animal, blah, 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 blah. I'm Googling it on the other tab. Baobab, not baobab, not bonobo, baobab, I remember. Got there eventually. So bringing in, again, we're going to use these throughout the zoo because I think they look really cool and they fit really well. I decided what we're going to do, because you remember we've got those signs kind of stuck at the bottom of it. That's my Pinterest again, I was checking some stuff out. We've got those signs stuck at the bottom, and I wasn't really sure what to do with them. I thought, oh, they can contain information. At the end of the day, they're a little bit small, really. What we're going to do is, have you seen that thing? I'm sure you have, it's all over the bloody internet. You know when people call snakes like danger noodles and stuff like that, right? We're going to do our own version. So the Warthog has a bunch of those names. I don't know why, really. We could even have the names of the Warthogs in the exhibit. That might make more sense, but it is less fun, so... I'm trying to remember what they were. I think it's Dirt Pig, Pumba Party, Tusk Bacon, and Mud Ham or something like that. I don't quite remember, but it's all stuff like that. Decided to, I don't know. I just wanted the viewing area to feel more special and viewing area-y. Decided to get rid of the railing at the top as well. I actually really hate this path because of the railing. It's kind of this metal jagged stuff. I think it's actually what we were using initially on the giraffe exhibit, and then I got rid of it, so I will end up doing the same here again just because it doesn't fit correctly. Now, the reason I'm using it in the first place is I wanted to use a different path for the warthog than the giraffe. Again, I'll explain why later, but that was the idea. I decided to scrap that. The wood log, it's not the log one, it's the wooden path though. It just kind of fits better, it just works, it really does. So I got rid of the logs there because obviously already a defense. I'm going to bring those across as well. Just a little sort of stand area thingy for the viewing area. Again, just wanted it to stick out a little bit more, I guess. I have atrocious hiccups, which I'm desperately trying to hold back right now. There you go. Bam. Big wooden arch. I think it looks alright. It's when you get close to it, it looks a little bit janky, but we're using logs and they don't curve, you know, so... I think it ended up looking pretty cool. Here's where I decided against the path. I was trying multiple ones, but none of them have the railing that I want. That stuff does. I can't remember what it's called. It's like MDF board, essentially, sort of thing. Get rid of the path up there again, just get rid of the railing. It just works better. The texture looks right, the railing looks really cool, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, all that said, it's time to decorate the actual exhibit. One thing I am focusing on much more on this zoo than we did with Blackrock is the area around the exhibit. The exhibits should look like zoo exhibits. They don't all need some big, crazy gimmick. I'm not saying I'm not going to do a gimmick or two, don't get me wrong, I love myself some gimmicks. But they don't all need a big, mad gimmick, you know, they can just be nice, relatively normal looking exhibits, and then we can make the area around them zoo-like and interesting and exciting to look at and sort of T-word appropriate, you know? So that's kind of where I am at right now. I do have some ideas for some slightly more inventive looking exhibits, and we're definitely going to be doing that. It's just not quite yet. These are still the introductory exhibits, I guess. These are the first exhibits you're ever really going to see. It's this and the giraffe. They're meant to introduce you to the thing I'll talk about later. It's really annoying. I really should have just said it at the start, but I've kind of committed to this idea now. What you will see is we're going to pick very specific plants for this one. It's meant to be a little bit, other than that bit in the middle where it's, you know, there's the baobab and the reeds and stuff, it's a little bit more sort of lush, I guess. What we're trying to emphasize with the Warthog is dryness and sort of this slightly more desolate environment. It doesn't really look like it. It ends up looking pretty, you know, there's lots of plants and stuff anyway, but there's less green plantage. You know, there's no elephant grass here and stuff like that. There's going to be certain plants that can be used in the giraffe enclosure, and there's going to be certain plants that pop up a lot more in the Warthog enclosure. And there's not going to be much crossover there. There'll be a little bit, but not too much. Like the lily pads, I can't resist the lily pad. Now that I've decided I'm going to use them in Africa, I do love them so much. So you're going to see a lot of them. It is crazy how just bringing in a few plants, though, it ties everything together so well. Like instantly, this was, say, 20 minutes of work to do it. And suddenly the whole thing just comes together in a very real way. A lot of sand in this bit as well. Yeah, pretty happy. Bloody Nora. Not allowed to look inside, don't show them. We're going to do just a little bit of decoration outside, essentially. Just wanted to have a look. Africa, again, in terms of stuff you can stick in terms of the props and the centerpieces, has easily the best selection in the game. It's so much better. I think Asia is probably, the Eastern Asian set is probably the closest in terms of overall number and quality, but Africa wins the day, it really does. It's got such good stuff. The only thing it's not great at is actually the lights. It's got a fairly limited light selection, I would say, compared to some of the other places, but by and large, it's got a lot of really cool stuff. I love you, Africa. I love you. Stick on some proteas. Again, protea we're going to use on this side, and the African daisy, which does not feature at all in the Warthog exhibit, despite my obsession with it, will only appear on the giraffe side. So that's just some little stuff like that. Gonna put a car in, gonna put a tent in a second. Decided to hang some bunting. I liked this idea a little bit. And again, I don't want to go too hard on the themes and the stories for the exhibits. I'm trying to build a zoo here for the first time in a long time. But the baobab sits in the middle of this sort of water supply, but there's lots of green life. It's like a little oasis, you know. The rest of the exhibit's got a lot of dry plants and rocks and stuff like that, and there's this little oasis in the middle. So I like the idea that the baobab, it became this kind of sanctuary. It became this important symbol to the people who lived here, and it's a little oasis, you know. It was a symbol of hope in the community or whatever. And I really want to hang something across there. I don't go for it here, but I do want to hang something there. I'm not really sure what yet. I don't want too much colour. But anyway, so somebody lives here. They've got a little tent. They've got like a little campfire, a little pot there, and they hang the bunting up on the tree. It's their way of kind of, you know, showing their appreciation for the tree and the life it gives to the area. Stuff like that. I don't know. I just thought it was I don't know. I'm trying to resist. They even have a hammock. I saw the hammock, like, yes, there has to be a hammock. So they hang the hammock in the tree so he can sleep within the branches of the tree that they love so much. And we're nearly done. I'm going to just keep sticking things in and kind of hoping for the best, which is oddly similar to real life, but I think I, by and large, decided against adding too much more from this point. I think I'm pretty happy. I do want maybe a little bit more around that viewing area, but I'm not sure what that would be. And we're done. So, whoops, I'm on the other tab. We will hop into the game for real now. I will show you what I've been working on since the last video. I'll explain what the new plan is going forward, and you guys can get involved with that. I'll show you my animal list and my plan for that. And also we can talk a little bit about the next video. Okay, see you in a second. Right, here we are. So, I'll give you a quick look at the exhibit. Like I said, it's nothing particularly over the top special or anything. I guess it's just a fairly regular looking little Warthog exhibit. So there they are, chilling. Who've we got here? We have Mablevy. Right, you're not thrilled. We're going to sort that right now. Not to worry, Mablevy. Not to worry. So, species. Common Warthog. I did leave this at the end just so you guys could be part of it. It's a beautiful moment. So we're going to get them a food trough and probably put it over here near the main viewing area. And a water pipe, because I always like to give them a water pipe. What else have we got? We've got wind chimes, which is pretty cool. Put those over there. And what have we got in terms of this? Oh, right. Nope. I love that noise, though. I do. That's a fruit spike tree. Does that count? There we go. That's pretty cool. Let's take the fruit on that. I've never actually seen that before, so excited to see that. Let's have another one of those. Bam. Okay, we have a 91% very, very happy little Warthog. You need some hard shelter. That's fair, but I'm not going to provide it. The only idea I had for that is maybe making this bit stick out. I was actually going to make this in glass, like along that ridge, and then flatten this bit, and the Warthogs could sort of sleep under there, and you'd stand here, and you'd be able to look down and see it. But I think this would be too high. We can always sink that in. Anyways, there's my. See, I think from here it looks pretty cool, right? Imagine there's stuff all around here. You know, it's not just in the middle of nowhere on its own thing. I think that looks pretty cool. But it doesn't look exactly like I wanted. It's okay. Anyways, you just walk in and it's just a nice little shaded bit. It doesn't really protect you from anything, if we're honest, but it's more about the look of it than anything else. And you get to look down into the enclosure, and there's our bunting beads hanging from the tree. There's a longer one over there. There's a hammock. There's the bunting beads there. Lots of sort of drier plants. Same over here. Lots of rocks, lots of dry plants. Stuff like that. You can see the difference a little bit. There's more water here, there's more greenery on the left. There's still some on the right, maybe a little bit too much given what I'm going for, but we shall see. And our little stuffed doll. So yeah. Oh, Angry Ham, that was it. Sorry, Angry Ham. I like this idea. Angry Ham, Dirt Pig, Pumper Party, Tusk Bacon. Is that the 4? That's the 4. There you go. Right, yeah, so, like I said, nothing too complex, but happy with it, I think. These are the introductory exhibits. So, the reason these are the introductory exhibits, I mentioned in the last video, in the last couple of videos, I want to have sections in the zoo, you know, like a carnivore section or like an ungulate section, like you would have in a regular zoo. But because this is just Africa, I don't want to split it too far, because I looked at doing it and there's like 2 animals per section. It looks a bit weird. So I thought what we'll do instead is divide the zoo in half, essentially. So one half will have the giraffe, one half will have the warthog, and that's why they're separated. And I'll show you what I mean. I believe this is meant to be... I'll show you what I mean. It's easier to just show you what I mean. So, right. What have I done since last video? Oh, right, yeah. So this guy's moved. You'll see him in a second. So I brought this guy. I don't know if this is what you're meant to do with these things, but I thought it was cute, so I did that. Over here we have the south and the north. So the idea is to divide the animals between the south and the north. Now the problem is a lot of the animals live... Actually, very few of them live in the north. It's more like the central sort of region of Africa. As I tracked the animal, every animal in the game, I had a look at its like habitat and where it lives in Africa. The majority of animals live in like this backwards sea that kind of goes through South Africa, curves up the eastern side, and then comes across the middle. The mid-south and to the west had basically none of these animals, and the far north had very few as well, if any. So there's a lot of animals here that do cross over, but I did try to focus on where their high population was, or, you know, if it was an animal that was only in the south, then of course it's in the south section. So there you go, there's our 6 design... There are 9 animals in each section. So the south there's our warthog, the elephant, the gemsbok, the aardvark, the springbok, the sable, the plain zebra, the African wild dog, and the black wildebeest. And over in the north, we'll have the African lion, the spotted hyena, the African buffalo, the buff owl, the Thompson's gazelle, common ostrich, cheetah, reticulated giraffe, that's what we've got outside, and the hippopotamus. And right, so over here is where our guy is. There he is, looking lovely, and he now has a friend. Oh yeah, it says, so this is our information about the south. A dry and unforgiving land, home to our largest animal, the African elephant, protected by Bob. I will be changing the name, but I didn't have a name, so Bob. Here we have a lush and verdant land. You see there's some ivy there, and there's more plant life here. It's more green. Home to the king of beasts, the West African lion, protected by Bob 2. And here is Bob 2. Now Bob 2 has this different mask, and he instead has this spear kind of thing. And because it's this lush, verdant, and slightly more water-filled environment, kind of like Nile River inspired, this was actually, the idea is it was like an oar, right? Because you hold it in the middle and then you kind of, you can't see what I'm doing, but I'm doing a rowing oar thing. And then he kind of turned that into his weapon, and you hold it in the middle there, and he's getting it ready, and there he is. So they both need names. So, the idea is, the zoo's going to get split in half between the south and the north. The south is going to be a bit more rugged, it's going to be a bit drier, more rocks, more sort of, you know, plants that look like this, with the faded green. Whereas the north is going to have more water, as you can see there's some in there, and more sort of green plants like this, and elephant grass, and ivy and stuff like that. The idea is just to split them in two. It's not necessarily meant to be geographically accurate, necessarily. I just want each side to have a different feel. They aren't going to be entirely different. Like, the donation boxes are going to look the same, the education boards are going to look the same. There's just going to be small differences that separate them. You can see here the fence on the north side has like this green and blue look to it, and if we hop outside, this is not outside, if we hop to the outside, You see I've brought that in here, and that's why here for our giraffes, they've got green signs now instead. So just little things, you know, the fence colour is a bit different, the sign colour is a little bit different. It still looks like the same zoo, and it still looks like it's using the same materials and the same stuff, but it's just coloured a little bit differently, and we'll have slightly different plant life, like African daisies on the left and Protea on the right. I believe the Protea is South Africa's, like, flower. So that's a good shout. Just to separate them a little bit, because I thought it was cool. So the story behind that, because you remember we had an idea in mind about these two guys who were defending the edge of the earth. Instead, we're going to do it a little bit differently. Instead, we're going to do it a little differently. So the park is named, the zoo is named, got to start playing Evolution, the Earth's Edge. And the idea instead is that there was this community in the south, and there was a community in the north with all their respective animals and some respective environments. And betwixt these communities, there was this raging, roaring river or chasm or something. And we're going to put that into the park before the next video, or in the next video. And to the people in the south and to the people in the north, this river, this chasm, marked the edge of the earth, essentially. They didn't see beyond it. They never got beyond it. That was the edge of the world. Kind of like when people thought the earth was flat and stuff like that, or people thought, you know, the sea was endless and there was nothing at the other side. People just thought Britain or America or wherever you want to be was the end of the earth. You know, people were very insular. So I kind of wanted to tie into that a little bit. So the south and the north both thought that that was the edge of the world, because that's the only world they'd ever known. And then they developed their communities and stuff like that. They were using similar resources. I did purposely want them to be vaguely similar to just show that people who may be separated by things and maybe think that this insular community do actually have a lot in common with people on the other side, essentially, anyways. And then, so these two people are the defenders of those realms, essentially. They've both got their own edge of the earth that they defend. And the idea is we do that, and we're going to split the zoo in two. So this side is going to be the... let me check. This side is going to be the north. So all the north exhibits are going to be on the left. All the south exhibits are going to be on the right. Basically, we're going to have a river going across here and up the middle, kind of just chasm here and split it a bit. You're going to go forward from here. You're going to walk over a bridge and enter the zoo. And that's where the entrance sign will be and stuff like that, and you're meant to go through the side. I mean, it'll kind of just look like a normal zoo, but there will be a little bit of a divide. It's not going to be a big thing, but just a little bit of a divide. And then, at the end, when we get to the top, or maybe, yeah, screw it, when we get to the top, you'll get up there, and that's where the king is going to be. Remember, we mentioned the king in the last video, because there is a mask perfect for the king, and the idea is the king will unite these two disparate realms, and so at the end is when we're going to have our big safari kind of exhibit with as many animals as possible. I'm thinking we can even bring in some of the carnivores. I had a little bit of an idea. I can actually, I'll just draw it quickly. Can I, up please? So if you imagine, oh my god, up, thank you. So imagine here, it's like where the path is an edge. Imagine the path bit is the boundary of a big safari. Elephants, giraffes, all the safari animals from both realms united in one big magical looking realm at the end. And we do want to lean into that magic fantasy a little bit. What we could do, I think, is then have these raised platforms around it, like that one. Like another one here. Because I really do want to bring in as many animals as possible. And what you could do is have these large raised platforms around the edge and contain carnivores within each of those raised platforms. So they kind of look like they're in the same exhibit. We can even use null barriers because they will be... It's like a cliff edge, they're not going to jump off. And then we could put the carnivores in there, so they're kind of part of the same exhibit in terms of how it looks, but in reality they won't be. And the idea is all the animals get united at the end. I think the hyenas are going to be based on Lion King, though. I really want the skull in there from Lion King. Anyway, so that's the idea. Yeah, gone in a slightly different direction, but I think this is going to be cool. I really wanted to have this sections of the zoo somehow, but I didn't want it to go over the top, and I think it was going to. I think it was going to be too many different disparate groups, so this is a nice way to split the zoo a little bit, but not too much. And we're going to go in that direction. So, there is our opening. I think it's looking quite nice so far. Yeah? Yeah? Not sure if there's anything else. I'm more than open to suggestions as always. If anyone has any ideas what we can do here with the Warthog exhibit, I'm very, very open to those ideas. Especially this bit. I mean, I quite like it. I think it will look better when there's stuff behind that. It just, you know, you look out and it's just nothingness. If there's stuff there, if there's the river roaring past and stuff, I think that's going to look pretty cool. Actually, we can put the river right behind that. That would be very cool. Yeah, that's an idea. Am I hitting play? Where's my Warthog? Buddy? There should be two of you. That's my Blevy. Where's my other Warthog? You're not in yet. I did have two. Probably hasn't arrived. Yeah, Kesler is on the way. All my giraffes have arrived, of which there are quite a lot, as you can see. I hope we can get a few more Warthogs as well. Aww. Let's have a little look at our Zoopedia. I spent the whole bloody video talking about the plans for the future. 1 male, 6 female, so we can get a few more lasses. It's always the same. It's always 1 male, 20 females, or something like that. Some things never change. She's called That's an amazing name. Let's get her and Iffy. Ife, probably Ife. Get those in there as well. There we go. There's our new arrival, our Kesler. Looking lovely, my dear. How you feeling? It's your new home. I know. And she spotted my Blevy. My Blevy's our alpha dude. Anyways, that's why the plant life in here is meant to be a bit more dry, a bit less green, stuff like that. I don't want to go overboard with it because I do want each exhibit to look nice. I do want to use trees and plants and flowers and stuff, but there's going to be less water and less elephant grass and less, you know, mangrove apple and stuff like that. Whereas on this side there'll be less these things, the Sudanese frankincense, and there's no salt cedar, and there's no what are these called again? Proteas. So that's the idea. Let me know what you think. It's going to look pretty cool at the end. Oh, they've met. Play with the chimes. Play with the chimes. Play with the chimes. Hello. How you doing? Play with the chimes. I know you're tempted. Oh, boo. I feel like I've talked so much and so fast in this video. Anyways, yeah, like I said, I'm open to suggestions. I think it's a pretty nice start, though. The idea is we're going to have a bridge over here, like a bridge over here, and a bridge over here. Oh, yeah, I didn't think about that. Probably going to have a bridge coming down from here. I'll just have a little gap, just so you can get to the respective side without going through the middle. But the idea is, in the next video, this is what we'll build. You'll walk forward from the central bit. There'll be a river going across, and you'll walk over a bridge, and that's where you'll see the big entrance sign. I have no idea what that entrance sign is going to look like, so please feel free to give me ideas. We might bring back the wire guys and have them standing on their respective side across from the sign, kind of thing. And then if you walk to the left, you'll enter this bit, and if you walk to the right, you'll enter this bit. And there'll of course be bridges and stuff in the middle. You should never feel locked in or limited. If you wanted to go like this across the zoo, you should be able to. At the end of the day, this is a zoo, not anything else. It's not a fantastical, magical realm. I do want it to feel like a zoo, but with a little bit of theming in there as well. Right. I'm out of breath. Feel free to give me ideas and stuff in the comment section down below. Hopefully you've enjoyed the build and liked the idea for the future. I'm still not convinced about these wood logs, but I think they look okay. And I think they tie in really well with this, obviously, and yeah, no, I think that's pretty cool, actually. Okay, yeah, that's cool. Okay, thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you lovely folks in the next video. Cheers, much love as always. Bye-bye. Hey folks, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you want to help support me a little bit more, you can do so at patreon.com/bestinslot. There's a link in the description down below. Every little really does help in times like these, but it's not at all expected, and by just watching the video you've already helped me out massively, and it makes you a pretty cool person, so well done you. Thanks for joining me either way, I'll see you next time.